Hey guys, welcome back to part 13 of this endless runner game tutorial series in Unreal Engine. And in this video, we are going to make a game over UI that is going to display when a character dies. And it will display some information like coin collected, distance covered, and the high score. And also gives you the option to retry. So stay tuned till the end of this video. And also you can download this whole project from my Patreon. So you don't have to make the whole game yourself. All the links are in the description. Alright, now let's make a game over UI. So for that, go to content browser. Here in this user widget folder, let's create a user widget. Let's name this game over UI. Open this up, and the first thing we need to do is add a canvas panel on which we are gonna keep all the things, and then let's search for border. Let me scale this a bit. By the way, you can customize the design however you want. I'm just making to show you. And let's set the anchor at the center, so this border remains at the center of the screen regardless of the viewport size. Now I'm gonna give it a bit of dark color with some transparency like this. And to be able to add multiple elements like this inside this border, we are gonna use overlay for that. So you can place multiple items like this inside this overlay. The first element that we wanna add is a text. And let's set its size to 75, and the text is game over. And let's give it red color. And let's align this text to center. Now let's add a horizontal box inside this border and fill it horizontally and align to center vertically. And inside this horizontal box, we are gonna add text, and the size you will give to your text, the horizontal box will adapt. So let's give it the size of 50, and we are gonna set text to coin. And I'm going to give it the padding of 20 on the left side, so there will be a little space here. Now to show the value, let's add another text into this horizontal box and set the size to fill, align it to the right side and vertically at the center. Let's set the text size to 50. And let's give it the padding of 100 from the right side, and let's set its default text to 00. Now let's duplicate this horizontal box one more time, and since this is just above it, let's shift this a little bit above. So for that, in your padding, let's add 100 from the bottom. There you go. Now let's duplicate this one more time, and this time let's add 100 padding from the top. So it is now shifted downwards, and now we have these three text. So let's set this text to distance and this last one to high score. Now you can also give these values some colors. Like for the coin, I'm giving it yellowish color. For the distance, let's give it blue. And for the high score, let's give it green. And now it looks pretty good. Alright, so now let's add a vertical box. And let's align it to the bottom. And inside this, we are going to add a button, which is going to be a retry button. So let's rename it to that. Now for this button, I already have an image which you can easily find on the internet, so I'm gonna use it for a button. So while we have selected the image in the content browser, here in the normal style, you can pick that image. Do the same with hovered and pressed. There you can see the image has been applied. Now let's change the image size to 100, and for the hovered and pressed, we are gonna keep the size to 120, so that when we hover or press this button, the image size will get bigger. Now let's shift this button a little above. For that, let's add a padding of 50 from the bottom. As you can see, the button has been shifted. Now let's add a text just at the bottom beneath this button. And let's name this retry. So now we are done with designing the UI. Now on this button, let's add an on-click event from here. And when we click on the retry button, we are going to execute a console command. And the command is restart level. So it's gonna restart the level when you click on this button. Now one more thing, that for all these value text, make sure this is variable option is ticked so that you can change their value from the blueprint. And let's also rename these text. So now we are also done with renaming them, and now to update their value whenever we want, for that let's create a custom event here. Let's name this set score text. Now here we are gonna give input parameters for each of the values. So let's name first one coins, make sure it's an integer. Let's add another one, give it the name distance, and then add one more and name this high score. So now we have all these parameters to set all these text values. Now to set these text values, get all of your text here. And let's go with the coin text first. So search for set text, and the text that we want to set is the value that we get from this coin parameter. And here set the minimum digit to 2. So the text will be minimum 00 instead of a single 0. Now just like this, we are gonna do for these two. Now let's connect the distance parameter with the distance text and high score parameter with the high score. So this is how we are going to update the text values with a single event. Now let's go to your game mode, and this is where we are going to create that game over UI. So rather than making a custom event, let's do it with blueprint interface, since we already have a blueprint interface for this game mode. So here let's add a function and let's name this game over. Now in your game mode, you can call this game over blueprint interface as an event, and this is where we are going to define all the logics. So here let's search for the create widget, and here we are going to create this game over UI widget. So let's select it here, and then from the return value let's promote this to variable to store its reference and then add it to the viewport. Now every time this event gets called, it's going to create a game over UI. But to avoid the spam issue, we can here do one thing, that is get the game over UI reference, right click and convert it to validate get. So if this reference is not valid already, only then we are going to create the game over UI. Otherwise, it means it's already there. Now as soon as we create the widget, at the same time we are going to update these text values. And for that we have this function. So get the game over UI reference, and from there call this set score text. And here in the parameters, we just need to give it the respective values. The first one is coin, corrected here. The second is distance. And the third is high score, which we are going to save in a save game class. But for now, let's just play and test this. Oh, okay, so before that, we need to call this function. And we are gonna call this event when a character dies. So go to your character blueprint. And this is where we have this death event. So here, let's call this event. And since this is a blueprint interface, it needs a hard reference. So now let's play and test this. So here let's collect some coins, and after that we are just gonna die. As you can see, this game over UI has been displayed to a player when he died, and all the text values are also correct. Now there is one issue, that we are not able to see our mouse cursor. So if I try, there you can see the retry button is also working, and we can restart our level and play again. Now to fix that cursor issue, come back to your game mode, and here in this event, get the player controller and set input mode to UI only. And then search for set show mouse cursor and then set this to true. So now you can interact with UI when this game over UI will be displayed. But still there is one more issue. Like once we set the input mode to UI only and then we click on this restart button, it is going to restart our level, but the input mode is still going to be in UI only, and then our inputs won't work. So there is a very simple solution to this. Here in your event begin play, let's add one more pin to the sequence. Here we are going to hide the mouse cursor and then set the input mode back to game only. And this will happen every time we start a new game. Now let's fix the issue where there is no environment for the first floor. So what we can do is, we can manually place the environment into a floor. Like this. And you can also manually place the obstacle if you want. So now if you play, as you can see, there is the environment for the first floor. Now here one thing to notice is that we have this white stroke around this retry logo. So to fix that, here you can set this draw as and select the box here. And do the same with hovered and pressed, and that issue will be solved. Now here for the high score value, we first need to save that value in the memory. So even if you restart your game, that value will be saved in your memory. And for that we use this save game class. So let's create a separate folder for that, name this save game, and inside this folder, let's create a blueprint class. And here from the all classes, search for save game. Select OK, and let's name this save game BP. Open this up. Now here let's create a variable that we want to save in the memory, and let's name this distance and make sure it's an integer. That's it. Now let's go back to your game mode, and now we have to load this save game when we call this game over event. So for that let's create a separate custom event and let's name this load save game. Now here search for does save game exist. And here you can give it any slot name. I'm gonna give it slot 1, and now we're gonna check if the save game already exists, like if that data is already stored in the memory. So if it is not, then we are going to create a save game object. From here select your save game BP, which we just created, and through this return value we can promote this to variable. Let's name this save game BP, and the whole point of loading the save game is to be able to access the data inside of the save game through this variable. Now when we check if the save game exists already, and in the case it don't, then we create one. But if it already exists, we don't need to create it. We just need to load the existing one. So here get the load game from slot and give it the same slot name we gave it before, that is slot 1. And now to load this save game into this variable, here you can see we can't connect it directly. For that first we need to cast to a save game class. So let's cast to save game BP, and then you can load the data inside this variable. So that's how we load the save game. Now here, before we even create this game over UI, first we are gonna load the save game. So here let's get the sequence, and that's the second thing we are gonna do. The first thing is to load the save game. So after calling this event, this variable will be valid. So here get the save game BP, right click and convert it to validate get. It's just for the security so that we only execute the code if the variable is valid. Now from this save game BP, we can access this high score distance variable and we are going to compare it with the distance our player has covered in the current level. Get the high score distance value from the save game. Oh okay, so actually I want to name this as high score since it's more appropriate for that. Now we are gonna check if the current distance is greater than the high score. Right? It's very simple logic. So if the current distance is greater than the high score, then of course we are going to update our high score value. So from the save game, set the high score value, and the high score is going to be the current distance value. So that's how we are gonna set a high score value, which is going to be saved in the memory. And to save it, get the save game BP and search for save game to slot. And here give it the same slot name, that is slot 1. Now here we need to provide that high score value to display it when the game gets over. So get the save game BP and from inside that get the high score and plug it here. And now it should work fine. So let's play and test this. Alright, so here you can see my high score, which is equals to my distance for now. And the next time I play and die soon, then let's see the high score. There you can see the high score is still there and the distance is less since we died early. And even if you restart your game, the high score will be saved in your memory, so the number will be same until you beat that score. So that is it for this part of this tutorial series. If you really like this video, you can support me on Patreon, where you can get all the project files I've ever created for these tutorial videos. The link is in the description. And you can also join my Discord server, where you can interact with other developers of this community. And if this video really helped you out, you can like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I wanna thank the Patreon members of this month. Thank you so much for your support, it means a lot. Alright, till then see you, bye bye.